Beast. Mysterious, vicious, usually referring to a large creature that will rip you apart. And in the coaster world, it's not much different. Some of these beast coasters will rip you from limb to limb, melt your brain, snap your back, and at that point, it's just getting warmed up. There are 10 coasters that connect with their inner beast, and today I want to count them down. This is Beast versus Beast versus Beast versus... Look, you still have time to get out. You should take it. Not every beast could live up to the name. For example, this kiddie coaster at Camelot theme park in the UK. This opened in 1983 as Nightmare, but with a K, Nightmare, Camelot Park. Get it? Yeah, probably should have kept that name. But then they added a mountain facade and changed the name to Space Mountain. It had that name for 3 seasons, until, I'm sure, Disney sued the pants off them, and it took on the name of the beast from 1988 to 1999. In 2000, it changed its name to Venom, and that's probably more terrifying than Beast. This is a lot of history for a coaster that looks like it was built by me in my backyard. It was relocated twice, now operating at Camel Creek Adventure Park in the UK, now known as Morgar. Yeah, I'd roll my eyes too. Then you got the wooden coaster at Kings Island. No, not that one. No, not that one either. No, not that one. No, definitely not that one. Geez, how many woodies does this park have? Yes, that one. That's the one. This opened with the park in 1972 using the name
Scooby-Doo.
That is incorrect.
No, that's correct.
But after a certain other coaster opened at the same park in 1979, this changed its name to Beastie for the 1980 season. It's both lazy and clever. Beastie, Little Beast. I get it, I think. It kept that name through the park's Kiko days, into the Paramount days. And if Paramount didn't screw this park up enough during its time, right before they left, they changed the name to Fairly Odd Coaster, using a Nickelodeon theme. Then, Cedar Fair takes over. They overhaul the Paramount's Kids area in 2010, and it uses the massively overused Woodstock Express name. And if you want my opinion on that, check out Wood versus Wood versus Wood versus Don't You Wish I Would Just Shut Up. Number 10, Beastie at Alton Towers. Here we go again. It's not just the Americans that do wordplay. We got the Brits in on the action also. This is a Pinfari Wacky Worm that opened in 1983. The ride formerly on the traveling circuit as Dragon Challenge. And with that name, it was doomed to be torn down and abused and kicked to the curb, even though another park would have loved to have it. Actually, unlike Universal, someone did take this ride off Alton's hands. Berry Island Pleasure Park opening this in 2018, the year after the more famous Dragon Challenge bit the dust. Dragon Challenge lives on to this day, and frankly, this was a better name than Beastie. There's a big, scary, strung-out dragon on the front of the train. If I was a kid, I don't want any part of this creature that looks like he came straight from a party hosted by Charlie Sheen. But they just slapped the Beastie name right on top of the obvious dragon theme. But they had a reason, and I'll get to that later. Spoiler alert, it's not a good reason, but a reason nonetheless. Number 9, Beastie at Wonderland Sydney. In 1985, the King's Entertainment Company opened a park down under, and you knew what they were thinking. The internet wouldn't become a major thing for another 10 years. They could reuse stuff and nobody would really notice. That company loved putting in these small wooden coasters, and I bet you could figure out why they called it this. Because, like I said, they were in the business of reusing stuff. 49 feet tall, 37 miles an hour, 1,500 feet of track. This lasted until 2002 when everyone got high-speed internet. Everyone realized what they did, and this shut down in shame, never to operate again. Number 8, Son of Beast at Kings Island. In 2000, the beast gave birth to a son. There was something like 15 months of labor. It was messy. The son came out feet first. There was wood everywhere. And the doctor who delivered this monstrosity, I forgot his name, but I think his initials were RCCA. He wasn't exactly qualified for a job this big. Still, the son got on his feet. A wooden coaster so big, its dimensions would never be tried again. 218 feet tall, over 7,000 feet of track. It even had a loop. Pretty sure RCCA crossed up some blueprints on that one. The son was bound to be famous, but it quickly turned infamous. It threw a ton of tantrums early on. It got out of control and buckled under its own pressure in 2006. That led to new trains and a loop-ectomy for the 2007 season. And once Cedar Fair came in and saw this thing on life support, they pretty much said, "This isn't my problem. Nobody responsible for this is still here trying not to get fired. Let's do what's obvious and pull the plug. Son of Beast is a legend for all the wrong reasons. Number 7. Big Beast at Edgewater Park. Before Michigan's adventure in Shivering Timbers, the state of Michigan had Edgewater Park and Big Beast. Well, it opened as Giant Thriller, using another adjective to hype up the ride. Then, it was called Soul Train. Don't know why or what or how. Then, it was called Swinger. I won't even touch that with a 10-foot pole. And it ended its life as Big Beast. This looks like a legit wooden coaster. It starts off with your classic crooked lift hill, and it looks like it has a good layout. You'd think, maybe, if they called this Big Beast, there might be a Little Beast. But no. They chose to call it Big Beast all on their own. Good for them, I guess. Anyway, with Shivering Timbers set to open in 17 years, they figured it was time to shut down not just the ride, but the whole park. There wasn't enough room in the state for both of them. Number 6. New Beast at Alton Towers. Remember that wacky worm that Alton Towers called Beastie? You know, the one with the dragon that ate the special brownies. Now it makes a little more sense. This Schwarzkopf jumbo jet opened in 1988 as Alton Beast, but then it was taken out, sent back to Germany. They patched it up real nice, got sent back to Alton Towers, moved to a different section of the park in 1992, and they changed the name from Alton Beast to New Beast. Now I know where Six Flags Over Texas got their inspiration for the world's first RMC. There's that, and... okay, honestly, I can't think of another park this lazy. Oh, here's Lagoon with their new Wilder Wild Mouse. A name I can't imagine anyone actually ever used even once. Number 5. Beast Mountain Coaster at Killington Resort. The only mountain coaster on this list. The last thing you want to think of when going to Killington Resort is a beast. This thing taking you into the woods where nobody can protect you. But hey, if you want to be honest, it's worth the risk. You're in Vermont. Is there stuff to do there? Sure. Are you going to do any of them? No, of course not. You're a coaster enthusiast, and there's only 2 coasters there. This and Timber Ripper Mountain Coaster, prominently featured in Timbers versus Timbers versus Timbers versus... Yep, we're making this happen once again. And you need to get back on the road so you can get the Funtown Splashtown in Maine, or Canopy Lake Park in New Hampshire, or even La Ronde in Montreal, or any other park around there to pad your coaster count. So if you get mauled or not, who cares? Just get the credit. Number 4. Draco the Flying Beast at Salitre Magico. This opened as Zombie Ride in 2015, a premiere ride Skyrocket 2, opening at Mexico's Bosque Magico. But despite their killer new ride, the park shut down in 2022. This was moved south to Colombia and given a new name, Draco, which is some made-up dragon, as opposed to a real one. And just like Beastie at Alton Towers, they refer to a dragon as a beast. I've ridden a bunch of Skyrocket 2s, but I'm sure all these useless facts would make the ride better for me. Well, that, and the fact that this has a sliding station. That allows it to operate 2 trains and moves the train out of the way so the multi-pass launch doesn't slam right into it. Seriously, SeaWorld, did you really cheap out on this? You're willing to add a new coaster to every park every year, but you can't spring for a sliding station? Anyway, I forgot what I was talking about. Oh, right, Draco. It's also got lap bars and not comfort collars, so all the more reason to be a Draco fanboy. Number 3. Wild Beast at Canada's Wonderland. This opened with the park in 1981 as Wild Beast, really playing off the silent E's because of Old English or something. Then Paramount comes in and is looking to slash the budget, and printing silent letters isn't exactly fiscally sound, so they changed the name, but not really. It's still called Wild Beast. Then Cedar Fair comes in and splits the difference. It adds one of the E's back, but not the other. A perfect balance, and one that made me and a bunch of others think it was changing its name to Wildebeest. These horned antelope things, but no. They set us up to all look stupid. If a normal beast will tear you to shreds, then a wild beast will do it even worse. In that sense, this is a perfect name for the ride. I rode it in 2023, and it was one of the most brutal experiences of my coaster life. 78-foot drop, 3,150 feet of track, 2 minutes and 2 seconds of wondering what you're doing with your life. Seriously, this park has 3 B&Ms, and one of them is like, right next to it. Why are you putting your body through this torture? Well, you could be punishing yourself for something. If you are, you picked a pretty good ride to do it on. But if you're like me, you find the good underneath the bad. This ride has good forces. Or maybe it just shook me so hard it unleashed some rogue endorphins. Either way, I enjoyed the beating. Number 2. Bush Beast at Wonderland Sydney. I mentioned the King's Entertainment Company set this park up in 1985, and there's no wonder where they got the inspiration for this coaster. I mean, look at the logo, that's just shameful. But again, it was 1985. Hardly anyone had the internet. And they figured people in Sydney, Australia would never know the difference. That's good, because Kiko cheaped out. This isn't even half the length of his mentor, 3,200 feet, 90 feet tall. All in all, a pretty ordinary coaster. I don't know if it was rough, but I'm assuming it ran better than Wild Beast, so I got it ranked higher. My only question is, if you're gonna rip off the Beast, why not just rip off the Beast? What the heck is a bush beast? A beast that hides in the bushes? Something to do with then US Vice President George Herbert Walker Bush? I asked Google and came up with nothing. Well, except this Texas guy who killed a giant boar he called a bush beast. Anyway, George W. Bush was elected president in 2000 and he didn't like the name. So with an executive order, at the end of his first term in 2004, he got Wonderland Sydney shut down entirely. Number 1. Beast at Kings Island. All roads point back here. This seriously inspired most of the coasters on the list, so how could it not be number 1? Also, honestly, most of the coasters using the Beast name aren't that good, so there's that also. Kings Island opened in 1972, and they led the way in their coaster innovations. You got the Racer, the first large-scale racing wooden coaster. That paved the way for a bunch of other parks. You also had Screamin' Demon, one of the world's first launch coasters, and one of the world's first shuttle coasters. Those were built by actual coaster manufacturers, PTC doing Racer, Aerodynamics doing Screamin' Demon. But by the late 70s, everyone completely high on disco at that point. The park officials are sitting around and saying, hey, how about we just build our own coaster and stick it out way in the woods, and we make it longer than every other coaster in existence combined? Well, they put their money where their mouth is. They had the right guys on board, like their very own Charles Dinn, building this iconic ride before going off on his own and building some very questionable wooden coasters. $4 million later, every tree east of the Mississippi later, 7,361 feet later, they had the Beast. No jokes here, this is the perfect name for this coaster. Super fitting for the size and scale of this ride out in the woods. And although other parks were following Kings Island steps leading up to this point, nobody followed them down the road of a homemade wooden coaster that spanned 1.5 miles. They said, nope, we're good. We'll just load up on a bunch of Vekomas that everyone's gonna hate in 20 years. Meanwhile, the Beast is still going strong 45 years later, and it remains one of the most famous coasters in the world. That's a wrap on every Beast around the globe. Let me know how many you've ridden and which one's your favorite. Though, I can probably figure out which one that's gonna be. Before you go, don't forget to drop a like. And if you're new here and love coaster content, please give me a sub. If you like these parody-style videos, I have a playlist with other episodes. Also, check out my second channel where I post copyright-free off-ride footage. And my baseball channel if you love baseball more than Son of Beast and Wild Beast love killing my brain cells. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all next time.